Gun control makes another move forward in the General Assembly in Annapolis. I'm Jennifer Franciotti. That story's next.
I'm Hallie Jackson in Washington to tell you how the president's keeping up pressure on gun control, where he's headed to make his pitch today.
A second straight postseason is now just 161 games away, and the O's are off to a perfect start. Keith Mills has highlights from the O's opening day win in Tampa.
And the baseball weather still hasn't found its way to Baltimore. In fact, it's simply freezing this morning. The Instant Weather Plus forecast as 11 News Today continues right now.
You're watching WBAL TV 11. Live, local, late breaking. This is 11 News Today at 6 a.m.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Stan Stovall.
And I'm Lisa Robinson in for Mindy Becerra. Thanks for joining us for 11 News Today.
We'll get to all of today's news in just a moment. First, it's 6:01. Time to get a check on weather and traffic on the ones. Let's begin with Tony. And the temperatures just keep dropping here. What's up with that?
It's in the 20s this morning. That's very unusual for this time of the year. Now, the average high is 60. We should be up around 60. Yesterday, we were in the 40s for most of the day with windy conditions. Today, we're going to be maybe sneaking into the low 50s, but we'll lose the wind. It'll feel a little bit better than yesterday, but still pretty chilly for this time of the year. 28 right now at the airport with clear skies, even colder in the northern suburbs. There's even been some reports of frost in some neighborhoods, believe it or not. Sunshine, we expect that to last all the way through the afternoon, but a high temperature of only 51 today. It's going to get a little warmer later this week. We'll check the 7-day forecast when I come back in just a few minutes. First, let's send it over to Sarah and see what's happening on the roads. Hi, Sarah.
Good morning to you, Tony. Good morning, everybody. Let's bring you up to date on one problem of note. It's an accident involving a tractor trailer. It's northbound 95 right at the Fort McHenry Toll Plaza, and it is starting to impact traffic because it's taking up 2 lanes there. A live picture. They may have actually blocked another lane now that medics and fire department arriving on the scene. So it is a busy scene. Again, it's northbound 95 right approaching the Fort McHenry Toll Plaza with 3 lanes now closed as you travel there. In terms of traffic southbound on 95, this is coming out of the White Marsh area. We still look good out of this area down toward the Beltway and the 895 split. Again, the problem is northbound to watch for. No other problems though. North side checking out okay at 11 minutes, about a 12-minute travel time from 795 down toward 95 on that south side. And it looks good here on 195 eastbound, but westbound some delays forming in the area of 95 around 32 miles per hour. That's the very latest on Traffic Pulse 11.
New this morning, city police make a gun arrest in northeast Baltimore. Police say officers recovered a loaded handgun and arrested a suspect a little before 1 o'clock this morning at a home in the 2700 block of the Alameda. Also new this morning, we're told someone shot an adult male just 2 miles from that arrest in northeast Baltimore. That was about 7:15 Tuesday night. Officers found a man suffering multiple gunshots in the 1200 block of Linworth Avenue. There's no word this morning on the condition of that man. Those 2 gun-related incidents come as lawmakers in Annapolis move forward with Governor Martin O'Malley's gun control legislation, but not without some changes.
The House of Delegates gave preliminary approval to the bill, but not some of the amendments attached. 11 News reporter Jennifer Franciotti is live on Federal Hill with this morning's big story. Jen?
Hey guys, good morning. 6 hours of debate in the House, and they rejected a number of changes, more than a dozen in fact, including a requirement to submit fingerprints in order to get a license to buy a handgun. Now, the House also rejected a proposed change that would have eliminated parole or probation for people convicted of committing a crime with a gun, forcing them to serve out their entire sentences. Differences between the House and the Senate, both controlled by strong Democratic majorities, will have to be worked out in order to send that measure to the governor before the end of the session. The House panels added some changes. One of them would require someone to report a gun lost or stolen within 72 hours. And another amendment changed the cost of the handgun license. The House amendment sets the cost now at $50. The Senate approved a $25 fee.
In a perfect world, in my opinion, we would end up with a bill that actually protects the citizens of Maryland. And unfortunately, the bill that we have before us does very little to protect citizens.
And that ban on assault-style weapons does remain in place. A vote on this issue could come as early as today. Reporting live, Jennifer Franciotti, WBAL TV 11 News.
All right, thanks, Jen. While gun control was a major focus in Annapolis Tuesday, there was a gun scare at a Glen Burnie High School. Glen Burnie High School officials say they found a .22 caliber handgun loaded with 7 rounds in a 15-year-old student's backpack Tuesday. They searched it after a secretary noticed him returning to the campus around noon. The sophomore is charged as a juvenile with numerous weapons violations.
Things seemed to be misleading, didn't seem to fit. So there were 2 assistant principals there at the time. They searched the student's book bag and found a loaded gun.
Based on our initial investigation, there's no indication that he was working with anyone else, that he displayed the weapon, or that he threatened anyone with the weapon, but we're certainly trying to ascertain at this point where he obtained the weapon from and why exactly he had that weapon.
The school sent home a letter to parents saying appropriate disciplinary action will be taken against the student.
Well, in the wake of the Newtown, Connecticut school shooting, President Obama is urging Congress to pass legislation to cut down on the number of incidents like that one in Glen Burnie. His trip to Colorado comes one day after a report sponsored by the National Rifle Association outlined several suggestions for keeping kids safer at schools. 11 News reporter Hallie Jackson joins us live from our Washington bureau. And Hallie, there are some obvious symbolic reasons why the president is visiting Colorado.
Right, Stan. It's a state which has already passed magazine restrictions and stronger background checks, 2 things the president would like to see on a national level. He will also be speaking just a few miles from where 12 people were killed in that movie theater shooting last summer.
If we can reduce the amount of gun violence, if we can protect our children better, then we will have at least partly fulfilled our most fundamental obligation.
An obligation to prevent scenes like this one in Aurora or this at Sandy Hook. That's part of the president's pitch to the American people as he puts pressure on Congress to pass more gun control, like stricter rules for background checks. Meanwhile, the NRA is rolling out its plan.
This is recommendations for solutions, real solutions that will make our kids safer.
The 8-point program includes a recommendation to train someone in each school to use a gun.
If you pass gun control, that's not going to be enough. You've got to be able to have better security in our schools, and that's our focus, and I wish it was the president's focus.
The school shield proposal has already come under fire from the American Federation of Teachers. The union's president called it a cruel hoax and said to protect children, Congress must reject the NRA's dangerous posturing and follow the lead of the Connecticut legislature, which is working on what lawmakers there call one of the most comprehensive gun control packages in the country. It's supported by some of the families who lost loved ones at Sandy Hook Elementary, like the Bardens.
Everybody needs to think about it and look into their hearts and try to do what's necessary to make the changes that have to happen.
Connecticut will stay in the spotlight next week too, Stan, when President Obama heads to the University of Hartford. That trip comes as the Senate gets ready to debate gun control here in Washington.
Yeah, so Hallie, as the president calls for tougher gun control laws, does he have a clear-cut priority here?
Potentially, it seems like that would be universal background checks, but the White House does want at least a vote in Congress on some of the more controversial measures which are less likely to pass, like, for example, a ban on assault weapons or a ban on high-capacity magazines.
All right, Hallie Jackson live from Washington. Thank you, Hallie.
In an 11 News update, Baltimore City Police arrest 2 men in a deadly double shooting involving an 11-year-old boy. 21-year-old John Knox and 37-year-old Joseph Oglesby face first-degree murder charges in the shooting. Police say it happened around 9:30 Monday night in the 1900 block of Bentlow Street. We're told the 2 suspects shot a 34-year-old man and 11-year-old boy inside a home, but the boy was able to escape and flag down officers on foot patrol just a couple of blocks away. Crews took the man and the boy to the hospital where the man later died.
You know, as a community, we have an obligation to care for each other, and the fact that somebody made a conscious decision to shoot an 11-year-old is absolutely outrageous.
Police arrested the 2 men while they were still inside the home.
Well, several people are out of their home this morning after a fire ripped through a 3-story apartment complex in northwest Baltimore Tuesday night. City fire officials say the fire started right around 7:45 in the 4000 block of Ford's Lane. Crews rescued 4 adults from inside the apartment, but say no one was hurt. The fire damaged 9 units in all, and officials are now trying to determine what started that blaze. Meanwhile, fire officials in Montgomery County are still trying to figure out what started a deadly fire Tuesday morning, just as we were going off the air. Officials say a 63-year-old man died in the apartment fire at a complex on the 400 block of Silver Spring Avenue in Silver Spring. Crews rescued 4 other people, some of them off their balconies during the fire.
Hundreds of Towson University students rally on campus in response to a newly formed group called the White Student Union. Organizers of Tuesday night's event, a group called Be the Change, say that they want to take control of Towson's image and demonstrate it is a diverse, inclusive campus.
Different ages, different backgrounds, different sizes, different genders, but everyone is here with the same mentality and the same ideology. to propel the idea of peace.
We have a Black student union, Hispanic student union, Asian student union. We have Jewish groups on campus. So the idea of the white student union is to be able to celebrate European American culture, but also be able to advocate for the best political interests of the white student body.
The university says the group is protected by First Amendment rights. Towson's president appeared at the rally to thank the students in attendance for being part of a positive change.
Meanwhile, there are some new developments this morning involving the future of the Towson University baseball program. The independent arm of the Maryland General Assembly is slowing up some potential funding for the team. Earlier this week, university officials announced Governor Martin O'Malley would provide a $300,000 grant from his supplemental budget to help keep the baseball team intact. But Tuesday, the Department of Legislative Services cited a new Board of Regents policy which expressly states athletics are to be self-supporting. State Comptroller Peter Franchot calls the governor's gesture highly irregular and unprecedented, and Towson officials declined to comment on this latest development.
6:11 and 28 degrees at the airport. President Obama announces a new program that will help answer some questions about the way the brain works, where the $100 million in funding is coming from. That's in this morning's top stories.
And it might not cost $100 million to go to college, but it certainly feels like it these days. Why new data suggests it's worth the price. That's in this morning's Consumer Alert.
And it's quiet and cold out there this morning, but we do have some rain in the 7-day forecast. I'll show you that in just a few minutes.
And motorists are dealing with some delays at the Fort McHenry due to a tractor-trailer accident. We'll update you on that and more coming up.